The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors. Lighting for ECAT production provided by the Avery Lee Williams Family Foundation.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Topic Time with Harrison Young.
Am I doing this right?
You've done it right, and we just finished the song. Now I do the intro. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Topic Time with Harrison Young. We are now more than halfway through the month of January, and I have a lovely guest today. I believe she's down in Connecticut, and she just had a little bit on Saturday Night Live a couple of weeks ago. She's an actress, a model, and it's quite a looker, as you can see. But before we get to her, I got to read these incredible underwriters, and then we will commence per usual. So we have Brian's Barbershop in Kingston. We have Lynch's Towing, Auto, Cycle, and Truck Center in Brockton. One number for towing, one number for projects. My pal Lynchy there is always in search of new wheel, scrap metal, anything to do with transportation. He handles it all. We have One Good Credit in Brockton. We have Salon Giovanni in Marshfield. We have New England Floorscapes in Middleborough. We have the Riverside Cafe in Wareham, open 6 days a week, all except Wednesdays, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. They make the best breakfast from Boston to the Cape, and they have DoorDash delivery. That's Wareham. We have Curtis Car Care in Middleborough. We have Diesel Plus Unlimited in Whitman. We have Doggy Boutique, all breed professional grooming for dogs and cats, run by my great next-door neighbor, Debbie Siddell in Brockton. We have Eli's Auto Care in Taunton. We have Grant's Rental in Bridgewater. We have Countertops Express in North Attleboro, experts in the installation and removal of quartz and granite. We have good old Dave's Automotive in Hanson on Route 58. We have Kingston Auto Body in Kingston. We have RW Carpet and Flooring in Norton, covering floors for 50 years. We have Tom Auto in Middleborough. We have Haven Psychiatric Services right here in the building in room 211. We have DNS Auto Works and Collision Specialists in Abington on Route 58. We have Evan Young Realty. That's my brother, the realtor, Evan Young Realty. And we have Joe's Diner in Taunton. And I want to thank you guys so very much. And now Gina White, thank you for doing my show tonight. How you doing?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be with you tonight.
Yeah, me too. I mean, we've been trying to get you on for like 10 years, as I said. I think I've had your number on file for like 10 years, but I didn't see you do anything that until recently. And then when you posted the SNL thing, I says, oh my goodness, I got to get him on the show. It's long overdue, and here we are.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, some of us, we grind silently. We're working behind the scenes for years and years and years, and then all of a sudden something big comes up, some great opportunities lead us out of our little shells that we've been working in for so many years. So.
Yeah, I understand. Well, first of all, look, hearing you talk, I don't think you were ever in a shell, but maybe you were. Well, we're going to cover all that during the interview because that's what I do. I interview my guests and profile them. So, well, let's talk about your childhood and everything because I do that with every guest. Tell me about where you grew up and how it got you into what you're doing now, little by little, and then if I have any questions pertaining to all of the above, I'll throw them in as I see fit. So, and then we'll cover that, and everything you've done that's pertinent to your current life and what the future looks like. So start with that if you would, please.
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up in Bristol, Connecticut.
Great
It's
town.
central Connecticut. It is
Yep.
a big town, especially for those sports fans. We do have
Yeah,
a
I know,
few.
ESPN Sports Center.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
We have a very,
Okay.
yeah. So I'm from Bristol, Connecticut. And Bristol is a very blue collar town, great people,
Okay.
amazing families, but it's mostly factory people. And a lot of theme of the youth in Bristol is, we're just a girl trying to get out of Bristol. Or just a young person trying to get out of Bristol. So a lot of our grandparents were blue collar factory workers, and now that arts is coming up and such, Bristol is becoming a little bit more than just a sports town.
Okay.
So yeah, that's where I grew up, and I started dancing at a very early age in a school in Bristol, Connecticut that's still in existence. Um, so I started there, and at a very early age, my parents sort of caught on that this was a specialty of mine, that I harbored some sort of talent, that I was gifted a talent by the universe. And instead of going against saying, no, you're going to 4 years of college and you're going to try all these things, even though we're really good at dance, they just decided to keep me in dancing. And I grew up as a competitive dancer. I would go to dance at 7 o'clock in the morning before I went to school. I
Okay.
would leave school at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and go right to dance. And then I would train to learn how to be a teacher of dance. Then I would have my own classes and my own competition rehearsals. So as a teenager and a youth, I was very into learning how to audition, learning how to interview, and being on the stage. And it's true. I come from a very large family
Okay.
of 5 children. So yes, I was in a shell because there were so many people
Where were you?
in my family.
Where were you in the chronological order of those 5 kids? Were you in the middle? Were you
So I'm in the middle. So
middle?
if
Okay.
there's five on the dice,
You were in the
I'm
three. You were the
the
three and the
center
five.
dot.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow.
So I know,
That is
right? So
obscure,
I
but
was
that's
sort
great. But you've obviously, I know now. I know what you mean by breaking out of your shell. You've obviously done that. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So I was from a very large Italian family,
Sweet.
and my father's side, our family in Bristol, Connecticut, in fact, dates back to the 1840s.
Wow.
So, and my grandmother had about 13 brothers and sisters. So,
Okay.
like we're very Italian, a lot of people shouting and yelling and talking and cooking and that.
You
So
had your own
being
Saturday Night Fever thing going on right in your neighborhood, right?
exactly.
Okay.
So naturally, I was in a shell, and I feel like being a dancer, being an artist, being an actress was a way for me to express myself where I could be heard.
Okay.
I could be a different character. I could go on stage or in my dance class and completely black out the ah, yeah,
Wow.
so
Your audio's slipping a little bit. Yeah,
know,
her audio's slipping. What's going on?
it's me.
Okay, all right, yeah, it's back. Okay, yeah, I was just, yeah, I didn't hear those chants loud enough, but that's okay. All right,
That's okay. Don't even worry about it.
okay, now I hear you now. All right. So now you say the kind of dancing you did, was it ballroom dancing? Was it disco? Was it a little mix of?
No, I was classically trained. So I was trained in the genres of tap, jazz, acrobatics,
Okay,
ballet, point, lyrical, contemporary, modern, many of the classicals
okay,
of dancing. And I'm just, believe it or not, at this day and age, learning some ballroom dancing. I'm doing some swing dance with a partner that's coming into my studio. and
sweet.
and we're doing some tap dancing slash swing dancing. So
Oh,
we'll move on to that in the future. But yeah, so that's I was a dancer
oh,
growing up
you
for many
you look
many
like
years.
were you a cheerleader in school too? Speaking of sports,
I was a cheerleader
yeah, you
actually,
look
and
like
when
a
I get you
cheerleader,
some of those
definitely.
pictures, I was a cheerleader. But then when you're a teenager and you're moving into a dance, it's either you choose these things, you can do your extracurriculars at school, you could do track, cheerleading, softball, volleyball, all those things
Don't forget
the high
gymnastics.
schoolers do.
If you're,
Yeah,
okay, I know. Cool.
all that, but that wasn't for me. I was on a dance track, and that was it.
Okay, great. All right, now you've done modeling and you've done acting too. When did you get your first gig of modeling gig and acting gig? Talk about each one, please, if you would, and then we'll break it all down, each one, and then we'll work forward.
Sure.
Okay,
So, when I graduated from high school, going back to how my parents were extremely supportive of my talent, and didn't try to force me to go to a 4 year college. They sent me right to New York City
okay,
to train, and I did. I got an audition for many shows back in the late 90s on Broadway,
Hold up.
Saturday Night Fever.
Was this theater or film or both?
This was theater.
Theater,
So I
okay,
began in theater,
okay,
believe it or not. I
I
began
believe
in
it.
theater because as a dancer, theater is definitely where you transition to as you come out of the competitive dance field. Many of us go into dance companies that are touring, or we go right to New York City to audition for Broadway and you know, the Rockettes or the
Yeah.
Radio City Music Hall spectacular is a big thing for young dancers coming into New York City. So my parents were supportive. There was no trying to push me into a four-year college. They were like, great, you're great at dancing. You're winning all these competitions. We're going to support you. We're going to send you to New York City. So that's what I did. And when I was in New York City, believe it or not, I had many auditions. I was supposed to audition for the Nickelodeon Rugrats, their first tour, but I slept through the audition. I
Oh,
mean, I was 18 years old at that point in time. But the next audition, the second audition I got myself up for, and I was cast in it. And my younger sister, I recruited to come with me, and
okay.
she also got cast into the show. So my very first job was with the Nickelodeon Rugrats,
Wow.
and we went on a 10 truck tour, which is huge. You know, that's 10 trucks of sets
Okay.
and costumes and everything, 10 trucks, 10 semis. So
Okay.
it's a big show. And that was my very first job out of the gate. It was a 5-star tour, if you will. So if you picture the United States,
Okay.
a 5-star means you're going all over the United States. We also went to Mexico.
Okay.
We went to England and Ireland, the UK, and then we went all the way across the globe to Australia. So
Wow.
I was,
Well,
yeah.
how many people were in this group? This is a dance troupe you're talking, or is it a theater? You're talking
Oh,
about
it was a
acting.
huge, yeah, it was a huge show. And that was my
Okay.
first union job.
Okay.
So getting into this job at 18 years old,
Yeah.
I was initiated right into the Actors Equity Association, which is the union for theater, Broadway, musicals,
Okay.
the union that protects the actors and the musical theater actors. So the dancers and the musical theater actors.
Okay.
So that was my very first job. I was 18 years old. I went right to this show and I worked on that show for 3 years. And then I decided that I really wanted to go to college, much like my friends and my peers. I was still a young college age person. I
Right.
still wanted to connect with my peers and, you know, have that college experience that all of my friends were having. And the experience I had was living in New York City and going on tour and being right in the entertainment industry at a very young age. But all of my friends were, you know, at Keene State or Duke or Endicott or, you know, and just like having that full experience with sorority life. So I wanted to make sure that I experienced that in my life. So after I got off tour, you know, I still auditioned for Broadway shows, but it wasn't the same. I wanted to make sure that I got some college credits
Okay.
underneath me.
So did you go to
Um,
college eventually?
I did. I went to UMass Boston and then
Oh,
I
love it.
eventually finished out. Yeah. And then I eventually finished out at Southern Connecticut State University, which has an incredible theater program. It isn't, it doesn't have clout. It is not, you know, given a lot of money for their theater program. It doesn't have a lot of like name and, you know, fame to it. But believe it or not, Southern Connecticut State University does have a great theater program. So
Did you
I
ever consider
finished
going
out
to
there.
Emerson too, or not? I'm just wondering. Did you consider
Did I
going?
ever?
Did you ever consider Emerson while you were? Because you know, I mean, there's a big, you know, that's a big acting college, and but I guess not. You never even consider it, right?
I didn't. I didn't because you know I was already on
You
my
already
track. I
had
had
you already had
become
your foot in the door. I get it. Okay. So all
yeah.
this happened.
So
Right,
there
hold
was
up.
really no sense.
All this happened after you were on. You got your Nickelodeon job, correct? That's when you. So you already done that before you started at UMass Boston. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Oh,
yes. And so after a few years of just being home with my family, my father became very ill and
oh,
was
okay.
diagnosed. Yeah, so I wanted to be home with my family as much as possible. So in between, when I came back, I want to say in 2001 from the Nickelodeon Rugrats, I went to Boston in 2006. So I
Oh,
stayed with my family for about 5 years, just preparing for college, taking some small courses to get like my basic histories, sciences, Englishes out of the way should I want to go to a college that specialized in theater or dance, you know, whatnot.
okay.
So in 2006, I went to Boston,
Okay.
and from there, I auditioned for a dance company, the Nathan Andery Dance Company, which I did get in. And while I was in that dance company, I was scouted and recruited into another dance company. So I ended up performing for two dance companies right away. And while I was living in Boston, I was able to audition for teams such as the New England Patriots cheerleaders, the Boston Celtics dancers, the
Wow.
Boston Blazers lacrosse team. And I eventually did get one of those auditions. I danced for the Boston Blazers, which is a box lacrosse team. They're
Okay.
not in
Yeah, yeah.
Boston anymore. But we did share the arena with the Boston Celtics dancers, and I have shared stages and auditioned in many other areas with Celtics dancers and Patriots cheerleaders, and we all trained together
Wow.
in Boston, just to get our own training in. So then we'd go off to our respective sports teams and then come back the next week and train together and do dancing, and then go back to our sports and cheer. So I was able to do that while I was in Boston. I also was on So You Think You Can Dance. I want to say season 6, maybe.
That's the national show,
And
right?
yeah,
Okay.
and it was crazy at that time because they said I was too old. Now you can't do that at this point in time, because if you audition for something or you're on a television show and you say, "Oh, unfortunately, darling, you're very good, but you're too old. I don't think you're going to get any better."
Wow.
And we don't need to say who that was that said that. But in that industry back in those days, I want to say in the 2000s, yeah, they could tell you were too old. So unfortunately, I didn't have a huge run on So You Can Dance, but that's okay. I also did a tour for Cosmo Girl magazine, in which I
Okay.
was the MC,
That's
and
modeling,
we
right?
toured the East. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Modeling is Cosmo Girl magazine. I also was able to be shot by a photographer for Maxim magazine.
Sweet.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Maxim magazine, right? It's like the comedy girls actually model. They're pretty
Why not? You
crazy.
you still look like a
I
teenager to
know.
me. You look like a
You're
forever
so
teenager to
kind.
me. But that's, I know that you have to present your ID to everybody when you're working towards
Sometimes,
something. Yeah. But I
sometimes,
mean,
yeah.
you couldn't just go in and say, I look good. I'm a teen. I'll be a teenager forever. Just use me. I can outdance any of these teen girls. Now, you don't want to be that.
Oh,
That's kind of cutthroat. But I'm just a thought. But
a little
you
bit.
obviously knew what you were
Sometimes,
doing,
yeah.
and everything in its time, and you obviously made it work.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So auditioning for So You Think You Can Dance, and that one, of course, passed its time. And it wasn't until I came back to Connecticut. Currently, I live in New York State. I'm right outside of the Berkshires.
okay.
I don't know if you know where that is,
The
but
Berkshires. I know the Berkshires.
if you're in Boston and you go
West, Route 9.
way across the state to the New York border, you will find me. So I'm out in the sleepy Berkshires. It's really granola out here. It's very crunchy. We don't wear a lot of makeup, but believe it or not, we have a wealth of celebrities, writers, directors. I don't know why they want to come here. Maybe they can
I know why
hide
they
out
want to
in the
go there, because they
mountains.
want peace and quiet. That's why.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm located after, this large Italian family in Bristol, Connecticut. I finally made my way to the Hudson Valley right outside the Berkshires.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, so that's where I am currently. But
Okay.
after moving back to Connecticut, I ended up getting a job in a dance company named Catapult Entertainment,
Okay.
and that is a shadow theater illusion company. We were top 12 finalists on America's Got Talent on
Sweet.
NBC. We were also on Italy's Got Talent. We've had international tours that span Germany, Italy, and they still do tour in the United States. I was unable to finish working with them because at that point in time, I did suffer a knee injury.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, that is really where I made the turn into acting because as a dancer, you can dance and it's a completely different skill set. It is completely different than acting and music. Dancing and singing is a whole different thing, not to mention how extremely impactful and detrimental it can be on the physical aspects of the body.
Oh,
So
yeah.
finally, after many years of dancing and touring, I suffered a knee injury, and that is when I made my segue into acting. I joined the SAG-AFTRA union, thankfully, because I had been a principal in a touring company under the Actors Equity Association, which is the sister union of
Okay.
SAG-AFTRA. So thankfully, I was able to just join SAG-AFTRA with my status as a principal equity actor. So I'm very grateful for that. I was able to go into the Actors Union for Film and Television without needing to jump through too many hoops.
Okay.
And
How
since
long?
then, it's just been.
When did you join SAG? How long ago?
I joined SAG in 2017,
Okay.
and I joined the Actors Equity Association in 1998.
Oh, wow. Long, big difference.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
a huge difference.
Yeah. 20,
But like I said,
19
being
years.
a dancer is so much different. Like you don't really think the flat for film and television is so much different than the flat for being on stage. You know, when you're on stage, you have to be large and you have to let those people that are way in the back of the audience see you. Whereas when it's a camera, you know, you just everything is a little bit more tight, a little bit more dialed down. So making the transition from stage into film was it took some time, and I'm grateful for those minimal jobs that I got back when I first joined the union. You know, just being on set, just walking by on a set, or just being in the room with, I want to say, Michael Weatherly. He was one of the first people, you know, that I had worked with in the industry. One of my very first core jobs in the industry. So it was interesting to move from a large theater background into a tiny, tiny box of being on film and television.
All right. So how'd you get to SNL? How did that happen?
So that is bananas. As soon as I joined the union, I just sent my resume, my picture, and my information over to the casting agents at Saturday Night Live. And I didn't hear from them until one night I was out at dinner and I got a call and said, "Hey, can you work the live show?" And I said, "Hey, sure, I can work the live show."
Okay.
And I did work the live show. It's just basically I kept working jobs and jobs and jobs until I made it to Saturday Night Live. Before I had gotten to Saturday Night Live, though, I had worked through the pandemic on a show called Bridge and Tunnel. I worked the entire season as a stand-in, and that was right after the pandemic when you know there were very strict mandates and policies on set, like you couldn't be near anyone, we had to have our masks on
Mask.
at all
I
times,
know.
we
We all
couldn't,
did.
it was a nightmare, it was an absolute nightmare to be working in film and television during the onset of the pandemic. And later we were all able to adjust to it. And that's how I made my way to Saturday Night Live. Because while I was working on the set of Bridge and Tunnel, I said to myself, you know, I really want to work on Saturday Night Live. That is something that I've been wanting to be on since I was 16 years old, from the days of Will Ferrell and Jimmy Fallon and Rachel Dratch. You know, those are the days that I was growing up watching SNL.
Right.
Adam Sandler and Dana Carvey and Mike Myers.
Don't forget Sarah
So as a
Silverman.
little girl, yeah, exactly. As a little girl, that's what I wanted to do. I said, I really, really, really want to work on this show. So when I finally made my way into SAG-AFTRA, that was definitely something that I had put on my punch list. I wanted to make sure that I got in touch with whoever I could on Saturday Night Live. And since I was already working full time in the entertainment industry on a television show, why not just talk out to the universe? You know, I really want to make my way to SNL. I really, really do. So I had already worked that one episode in 2017 with Kevin Hart and the Foo Fighters,
Wow.
which unfortunately the sketch that I was in that had everybody in it, including the Foo Fighters with their drummer Taylor, that was cut for time, sadly.
Oh, but
Because
not
it
this
was
time.
just
This time you were there.
this time I did make it to the live show this time. So, you know, after speaking into manifestation while I was already on set for a different television show during these drastic conditions that we were under for the pandemic, I spoke into fruition. You know, I really, really want to work on this show. And it wasn't until 2 years later in October of 2022 that I got a call from the SNL film unit. And because the COVID, I had gotten used to being able to, you know, go down into the city. You had to go in the day before or get tested on the day of to make sure you didn't have COVID, because you could not work if you had COVID. So I was able to make it into the city for these COVID tests. and be available. Like when Lord Michael calls, when Lord Michael calls and says, "Can you come down to SNL and work?" You just say yes. There are no, well, what's the wardrobe going to be? Well, I have to do no. When they call, you just drop what you're doing and you get your butt down to Saturday Night Live. That's it. And that's how you continue to work there is you show up, you put your head down, you don't wander around the buildings, you don't try to connect with the celebrities, you just go to work, you do your job. So getting manifesting. Bridge and Tunnel, I was on Bridge and Tunnel and I completely manifested. I said, I really want to work on SNL. So in 2022, I got my call. The very first sketch I worked in that season was the AMC sketch with Chloe Fineman, who is parodying the Nicole Kidman AMC sketch. And from there on, I kept getting called every single week. I kept getting booked every single week. And I was on a great stride with SNL. I was 87 days into my healthcare eligibility, which is a huge deal right now. If you do not acquire the amount of money through a contract or work the certain amount of days that you need to create eligibility for this healthcare, you don't get healthcare. So I was very, very close to getting this healthcare. I had also worked on the Gilded Age for the entire second season. In 90-degree heat, in these gigantic costumes and hats. And I mean, and when you're working a period piece like the Gilded Age, you're working 16 hours a day, multiple days a week. There's just, I mean, it takes 4 hours just to get everyone into costume.
What exactly was your little role in Saturday Night Live? Because we're under 5 minutes, so we got to wrap it up soon.
Okay. Yeah. So my role on Saturday, so I've been working on Saturday Night Live since 2022. We went on strike. When they came back, they brought me back. My role on this particular episode of Saturday Night Live is Mary in a Fuerte Navidad sketch of Sábado Gigante. So I was able to play Mary in that sketch, and it was incredible. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to work on Saturday Night Live, and I hope to work with them more.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, by the way, Sarah Silverman's my cousin. That's why I mentioned her. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, I don't know her. I have never met her. And was she in Wreck-It Ralph? I think she was in Wreck-It Ralph. She played the voice of
she played a lot of stuff. But
she was one
of Michael's, lackeys back in 1991.
Yay! Oh, goodness.
Do you have just curious, do you have a family? Do you have like husband and kids and stuff? Or are you freed up for more acting?
So I have a family. I am not married and I am definitely free for more acting.
Oh, but you don't have any kids, right?
I do have a daughter. She's right in the other room. She's talking to her cousin. Remember that big family I was telling you about?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. That's cool. All right.
She's literally on the phone with the family as we speak.
All right. Great. Well, if you had fun with me, I would like you, what I want you to do is give shouts out to some people. First of all, give shouts out to some people that are going to see the show. Then we'll wrap it up with my snapping. And go ahead, and then we'll finish it up. You'll give shouts out. Just a few.
Oh, shout outs?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd like to give a shout out to my sister in Bristol, Connecticut, my family, my daughter Evangeline, and my very, very best friend, Stephanie Stardust in Connecticut.
Okay. Well, if you had a good time with me, the other thing I was going to say is if any of these people you think would be great guests for my show, you got my digits, have them hit me up. Oh,
sure.
Yeah. And now, before we wrap the show up, is there anything coming up on the horizon that you want, besides SNL? Obviously, we're looking to see you again. Is there anything you want to mention that you're going to do, as the year rolls on? If not, that's fine, but I always check that with everybody before I wrap.
I just have my yoga and my dance studio in Hillsdale, New York, where we have acting classes, we have yoga classes, and we have dancing classes.
Sweet. Okay. Now I got one last favor to ask. We're going to wrap the show up in a minute. Will you stick around and do my tech guy will take a pic for Facebook with you and I, and I'll be standing next to you on the screen, and then I'll tag you in it for Facebook. Great. And you can tag me too if you want.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right. Gina did a great job. What an honor it is. I've had some really famous people on the show. I think you're right up there with the top, echelon of those.
Sarah Silverman, come on.
Well, she's just my cousin. I've never had her on the show.
Oh man, well, I'd love to be her bestie for sure.
Well, she's just I'd love to get her on the show, but she knows about the show. If she wants to do it, she knows where she can find me. But I'm not going to hold my breath. To be honest with you, I think you're probably a better guest than she'd be. You have all that enthusiasm.
You know what I need? I need her agent. That's what I need.
All right. You ready? We're going to wrap the show up. You ready to snap along like you did at the beginning?
Sure.
All right, folks. Hope my boom block works. If it does, we're going to wrap it up and snapping off and signing off. And more great shows to come. Here we go. Read, play. There we go. Play. There we go. Perfect.
Lighting for ECAT production provided by the Avery Lee Williams Family Foundation.